Hi, welcome to the Consonance Course. I shall be your host, Emma Barnes. I run Consonance and look after the team here at Consonance Towers. We are going to be taking you through the entirety of the publishing process within Consonance during these videos. We're going to start right at the beginning. We're going to start at acquisition before we've even decided to publish the works in question. And we're going to follow our work all the way through the publishing process until it's fully published and out in the world and garnering great reviews and prizes. So let's have a look to see what we're going to cover in this first session. So we're at the number one stage of the acquisition process, and we are going to be looking at the following aspects of publication. After acquisition comes editorial. That's the point at which the words in the work are refined, polished, buffed to perfection, with lots of back and forth between the publisher and the author or translator or illustrators or other content editors. Then we're on to the production phase of things, where the work gets put into production. Usually we're talking about print there, but we can also mean audiobook production or digital book production. After that, we're on to selling, where our sales and marketing teams swing into action and make the most of the wonderful work that we have in front of us, communicating its wonderful points to the potential readers and buyers. And after that, we deal with money in terms of calculating and paying royalties, making good on our contractual obligations, and making sure that the whole aim of the exercise is achieved, which is to sell more books and make our creators benefit from those sales. So when we come to looking at Consonance's features and how we can support you in that, this is a schematic of the navigation main menu within Consonance. We're going to be looking at each of these areas in turn, and the areas will be relevant for every part of the publication process. Acquisition certainly has a great deal of activity in the metadata area and also people and organisations, but so does production and so does paying royalties. So everything is going to be relevant at all parts of the process, but we're going to break it down into what is particularly important at this moment in time. And so when it comes to acquisition, we're going to be looking at the following areas. Within insights, we will be looking at the quality of the metadata that we are achieving and that we are generating at this early stage. But in order to go from the stratospheric level of what are we trying to do with our overall list, we're also going to be looking at season planning, and we'll be bouncing between the detail and the macro, making sure that whatever refinements we're working on within our works make sense at that season level. In order to look at any of that information, we're going to have to enter it into the metadata area, and so we'll be looking within this section of the Consonance course at metadata setup. But we're also going to be looking at whether we should be publishing this work at all, and so we'll be looking at the financial planning, the P&L plan. We'll be looking at contractual obligations, putting down when the manuscript should be due for delivery. We'll be looking at briefing all relevant parties in terms of handing over from the acquiring editor to managing editors and so forth, and we'll be looking at contract setup as well. In order to get us going nice and quickly, we'll be looking at importing from other systems, and whilst your own particular setup will be unique to you, there is often a multitude of systems all trying to talk to each other, and we want to minimise the amount of rework that you have to do. So we'll look at importing data from other systems. And some of that data includes contributor setup, and so we'll be looking at adding in contributor information, translators, illustrators, authors, editors, as much as work information. So let's have a look to see what we're going to do with all that. Here's more information, and let's start over with metadata checks and season planning. We'll add some information for a new potential work, and then we'll see if that fits in with our overall planning. So let's get to it. I'm going to switch over to Consonance. Now, this is an imaginary publisher within the Consonance system. This is a publisher called Feline Press, specialising in books about cats. So none of the information that you see here is particularly realistic, but we are using the real system. So whatever you see here, you'll be able to see in your own account. Let's start by introducing some of the ways to move around consonants in the most effective way. Now, we are heading towards setting up a new work for the first time, and this is the home page after we've logged on to the system. I can see some recently visited works, but they're not relevant to us at the moment because we're adding a new one. And I can certainly see that we haven't got much coming up in the next few months. So let's go to this menu at the top of the bar here, and as I hover over it with my mouse, I can see that the tooltip comes up and it says menu, and in brackets, open with control. So what that means is if I hit the control button twice rapidly on my keyboard, that's going to have the same effect as clicking on this icon. So first with the mouse, I'm going to click on this icon, opens up the menu, click again to close it. Secondly, from anywhere in the system, so I don't need to, anywhere on the interface, so I don't need to use my mouse, I'm going to press control, and that opens the menu. Seems silly to labour the point and to talk about that, but you're going to be moving around the system all day, every day, and it's really nice to get the muscle memory going and to make sure that you are capturing as efficient a way of moving around the system as possible from the get-go. While we've got the menu open here, let's have a look at some of the options which the mind might obscure when you're just trying to look for the thing at hand. I've opened the menu and my cursor is in this bar at the top which says Find in Navigation. Now bear in mind I'm going to be trying to add a new work at some point, and so it makes sense that I would want to type in, maybe work. And at the moment I start typing, WO are the letters I've typed in, and the main menu has filtered that down to only the parts of the menu that have got something relevant within that. It also acts as a kind of thesaurus. So what we've tried to do is make sure that any words you think might be plausible, but may not be the words that we ended up using to describe the feature, that will also work out. So if I type workflow, if I carry on typing and type workflow, then that's one of the potential words that will reveal the project management part of Consonance. As it is, we've got to-dos as well, and plans and so forth. But workflow is also a completely plausible word that you might use to try and find this particular area of consonants. If I hit the back button now, the delete button, I'm going to settle on only works. Products will work as well, or other synonyms for this sort of thing. So it's worth just sort of going on autopilot, typing in what you think it should be called, and chances are that will be there for you. Whilst I've got all of the options on the page though, we can also see that there are a set of stars, we'll call them star icons, on the main menu. Now those are helpful for when you've found the link that you want to go to within Consonance and you think, gosh, I'm going to come here another 1,000 times. I wish I didn't have to move my mouse all the way from here all the way over to, say, print on demand. And so we can use these star icons to keep a short list of the links that we click on most frequently. So again, if I'm going to be using works a lot, then I can select that icon and you can see that is highlighted there and it's in my starred list. The final thing I want to show you on this menu, we've not even got to the metadata page yet, but there's a lot to cover. The final thing I want to show you here is just down in the bottom left, it says press Control to toggle keyboard shortcuts. Now you've pressed Control to open this menu in the first place. Pressing Control once toggles keyboard shortcuts, and so I can see that the keyboard shortcut for going to the Works page is MW. So if I type MW, that's going to take me to that page. If I type, let's think, DI, that's going to take me to the Data Exchange and Admin Imports page. So possibly worth having a look at these keyboard shortcuts. If you're always going to a particular page, then being able to type Control and then MW is going to get you there really quickly. So plenty of options there for you to move your way around the system, and once you're comfortable that you know where you're going, you might want to try to sort of automate your fingers a little bit and help avoiding just shaving off a few seconds each time. So I'll press Control again to toggle back, and I'm going to go to the Works page using the very pedestrian point and click of the mouse, but we could have done that in one of those other ways. Once I'm on the Works page, I can see that I've got a couple of options here. I can add a work or I can import works, and we're going to step through these two options now. So adding a work is the least efficient way of doing this, because I suppose if you're going to set up a large number of works in one go, it makes sense to do that from a spreadsheet. This is particularly relevant if you're just starting out with Consonance. You've already got your front list perhaps in a spreadsheet somewhere. You're wondering, gosh, do I have to type in 200 records now? Well, no, you can import from spreadsheet. But we're also going to use this useful way to add a single work into the system, which is relevant if you have got one work in mind and you're thinking of putting it forward for acquisition. So I click on Add Work, and that takes me to the Add Work page. And I have two options. I can duplicate an existing work, or I can add a new work from scratch. 99% of the time I use duplicate an existing work because it brings so much information with me and I don't have to start from scratch each time. It's really, really helpful for series works, for any sort of work where there's a usual kind of a pattern. Even if it's just that you are publishing a trade paperback, and most of your trade paperbacks are B format, paperback UK 129 by 198 mil, and you don't want to have to keep typing this information in. So if you have a set of exemplars or if you have a series, then it's really helpful to go straight in, choose the work that you want to duplicate, maybe give it a new title at the moment, or call it untitled, or call it something that's meaningful to you that you're going to be able to retrieve later. Cats in gardens. I don't know. Running out of cat-based work titles, I've got to say. And then what else should be duplicated? You can choose at this point. You might want to bring over the marketing texts if this is a very cookie cutter kind of a work. You might want to bring through contributors if it's the same contributors. If it's got the same subject categorizations, then that seems relevant. Certainly if it's in the same series, fantastic. Publishing roles and role fulfillments is helpful for getting the team side of things set up and running quickly, and so forth. So these are optional things that can be added in at the point of duplication. There's a whole bunch of other standard options that will get added in regardless, and you can read about all of those in the sidebar here. So we'll click duplicate and see what happens with that. And sure enough, that's going to result in a new work with a lot of data that's been brought in from the work from which it was duplicated, but there wasn't much information on it to begin with, so that's all fine. But going back to this Add New Work page, we can alternatively add a new work from scratch. And that's going to be a little bit more instructive because we really are going to get a very basic page set up, and this is the appropriate option if you, again, are new to Consonance and you haven't yet got your patterns into the system, you haven't got your works that you want to duplicate really set up. So I am going to add a new work from scratch, and I'm going to click create and see what we've got. Now, just like when we duplicated, this is my new work ready to fill in, and the first thing I have to do is add a new product to the work. So a short pause to talk about the way that data is structured within Consonance. We are trying to avoid you retyping data. We don't want you to have to repeat yourself, not least because it's tiresome, but also because that's how error and inconsistency can get introduced into the system. So it's going to be fruitful for you to follow the patterns that we've laid down. That means you only have to enter data once. And then you can start to trust the system as being your one version of the truth, because you know that if you have to enter data once, that is the accurate representation of that data. It will start to feel like it's more natural when you have your own works and your own data going in here. But it's true to say that within Consonance we have what feels like a bit of a family tree set up to avoid you having to retype information. And the family tree is that a work, which is the parent, has many products, and those are the children. We have that because then the children can share information from the work. And to use a real world example, it's really rare to have multiple products on the same work that don't have the same subject classification. I mean, can you imagine a hardback and a paperback having different subject classifications? It's a real stretch. And so by having this family tree arrangement, we can say that the work is, fiction about cats, and then the hardback and the paperback know that it's fiction about cats without you having to type fiction about cats in twice, once for the hardback, once for the paperback. And so that's why we have this family tree. And at the moment we only have the parent, we've got the work. So we are going to add the children. The work is, you can think of it as the intellectual property or even the manuscript. You don't sell a work in a bookshop. You do sell a hardback and you do sell a paperback. And online you sell an EPUB, and you might sell a PDF, you might sell an MP3, you might sell an audiobook on cassette. These are all sellable things. They're all products of the work. And the more products that you have, the more useful it becomes to be able to share information across all of these siblings, all of these children of the work. So I'll click on Add New at the top here, and I'll click Add a Product to this work. And I think I'll do that again because I'm going to have a hardback, a paperback, and an EPUB, I think. Some of our wonderful clients have, I think 13 is the most that one of them regularly has. And it's a wonderful thing to behold, to see the efficiency that you get from having only having the need to put data in once. It means that you can publish into more formats without a sort of escalating amount of admin to go along with it. So I've added a product. I've added 3 new products to this, and at the moment I can't really see much difference. On the top region here, I can see that there's no work classifications. There's one title, and it's not a very good one at the moment. I haven't got any identifiers and so forth. But scrolling down, the first inkling that I can see that we've got 3 products on this work is in the format area. So let's start there. Let's edit this format area and see what we've got. So the first thing we see here is that we've swapped in to an editable area, and you can see we've got form fields appeared. And this is how all of the pages actually within Consonance work. When you land on them, you are in a kind of show environment. Consonance is showing you the data that already exists at the moment for this particular region that you're on. When you click in to edit that information, you're going to see form fields, you're going to see options like we're seeing here. And we do that because we want the usual experience of Consonance to be as clear and uncluttered as possible. You can see, in this edit view, we've got a way to change the format and the edition and the product form and the product form details and the product form description, all of which are Onyx related pieces of information. But we don't necessarily want to see that all the time. So in show mode, we're just seeing the data that exists, which is an undefined product form. I can click edit to get it back into this region. Alternatively, I can double click to edit, and I can use my keyboard as well, tabbing through these regions, whatever your preference for interacting with a web interface is. So this first drop down here is called in-house format, and if you have created in-house formats, then you can choose one for each product. This is kind of like a template. We can go over and have a look at the full extent of that templating area in a moment, but this is going to give us yet another shortcut for filling in a lot of the same sort of fields that occur for products of the same sort. This is the list that Consonance ships with. It's the usual suspects, and if I choose B format paperback UK, I know in my head that is 129 by 198 mil, and I know that it's going to be the paperback format. If I choose the A format, then I know it's going to be 178 by 111. And to avoid having to type that in all the time, these templates here are going to get me up and running quickly. So I'm going to have a B format paperback, I'm going to have a B format hardback as well, and I'm going to have an EPUB. And you'll notice I typed EPUB there, and in all of these drop downs, that's whittling down my options on this list. Hitting back for the moment, we'll do that more slowly. EPUB, oh, there's nothing else that's got an E and a P in it. Fine. And again, that's bringing information with it. Then I can also choose the in-house edition if I want to, and I can choose the product form. But let's hit save and see what Consonance gives us just for that. And immediately we can see that because that's a template, it's brought in B format hardback. It knows that the product form is a hardback. It knows that for the paperback, the Onyx product form is a paperback, and so on and so forth. A lot of the work that Consonance does is in taking the words that we all understand in publishing and mapping them to a more formal regime that computers can use to communicate this information. And to have that sort of lack of ambiguity, we use the Onyx standard. I am sure I will do a full 1 hour about Onyx in the fullness of time, but for now, Onyx is a lingua franca. It's a way of marking up data to say, I am now talking about the following product. It's got this ISBN, it's got this publication date, it's got these suppliers, it's got these sales rights, and you can then send your metadata in a structured format from Consonance out to your trading partners, and they are going to know what you're talking about, because Onyx, this XML data exchange format, is much less ambiguous than you typing it on an email or putting it into your own spreadsheet is ever going to be. So what we've just witnessed here is a really interesting mapping from user-defined values, I suppose you might call them, B format hardback, into the Onyx word for that, which is here. And it's an Onyx 2.1 code. It describes the product's form. And this is one of possibly thousands, certainly hundreds of fields that are available throughout Consonance to help us structure your data in a communicable fashion. So what else did we get? We got product form details, lovely. we got some ebook information and some new regions have appeared here. So the format type, which is defined as the particular format in which an ebook is traded, that's been set as EPUB from our template. We haven't got any DRM, excellent. And logistics wise, we've now got some of our dimension information. So there's my paperback, there's my hardback, including the board's width, lovely. And of course you'll notice there's no physical dimensions for an EPUB because it doesn't have any. So Constance is doing sterling work there to save my fingers, save me having to add in more information. But this information is at the product level. A hardback and a paperback have distinct settings. They can't share the information. And I was waxing lyrical earlier about how, you know, having this family tree means that we can share information. So what's going on? So let's go to a bit of metadata where data can be shared across multiple products of the same work. And possibly a good example is the blurb. So let's add a blurb. Gone to the marketing texts region. Could have clicked here, but I'm just in scrolling mode at the moment. First question I get is what type of marketing text is it? Let's say it's a main description. And I'm going to be able to find out much more information about what these words mean if I follow my nose and I click on the information icons. So, you know, if I think, gosh, what is a main description? I click here, I get a little bit of information, and if I want lots more information, then I can open up the sidebar here and see that if I want to. And it is really useful to see not only the description of what sort of information you should be putting in, but also how to format it in such a way that it's going to be excellently structured. So you can read that at your leisure. But for now I'm going to write my highly compelling blurb, which is a book about cats and how they enjoy the summer. I'm going to have that as a public version. What does that mean? We'll click on the information icon to find out. I could have an in-house version as well. If you've agreed with the Consonance team that you want to use different versions of these texts for different reasons, perhaps, you know, for an in-house flyer or catalogue or advanced information tip sheet, you might want to have multiple versions of the same tagged up piece of information. That's a bit of a stretch goal at this moment. We can add further metadata about the blurb if we want to, but this is the bit I want to show you for now. At the moment, this main description is going to be applied to all of the formats, all of the products of the work. And if I only want to have it apply to the print formats, then I can unselect the EPUB and add in a separate main description for the digital product there. So that is how we get the best of both worlds. We are able to add in information once, but then when it becomes relevant for, you know, for good reasons, we're going to write a different piece of copy for a different product, then we can opt it out and move on. So that's the sort of way that marketing descriptions, marketing texts are handled. Similarly, contributors. Oftentimes you might have all of the contributors contributing to all of the products, but you know, imagine if you've got a beautiful illustrated edition and the illustrations are only in the hardback. You might want to choose not to have the illustrator on the black and white ebook. So there's all sorts of reasons why that might be relevant. We will not add that for the moment. So we've not got very far. We have found a place to add in our new work that we're going to be considering for acquisition. We have come to the metadata page and we've added in some rudimentary information. We have certainly made sure that the sorts of formats that we're thinking about are hardback, paperback and EPUB. But next we really need to start building a compelling message for getting the rest of our team members to agree that this is a great work that we should be including on our publication programme. And so we're going to, first of all, add this to a season. So this is now moving from the absolute minutiae of, what width are we talking about on the paperback of this one particular work. And now we're going up to thinking about season level. I am now programming for, let's say, even spring, summer 2027. So I want to be making sure that as I'm adding data into Consonance, I'm tracking the relevant data as I go. And it's actually the very first region on the metadata page. It's this in-house work classifications area. And this is one of the few parts of the metadata page that will contain data that does not go out in an Onyx feed. So this is relevant to you, relevant for your own programme to keep track of things. And the things it's going to keep track of are the type of work that we're talking about, the project stage, the season, and the marketing tier. Now these are all words that are going to be defined by you. Whatever's in these drop-down lists, it's not going to be set by the Consonance team here. It's going to be set by you to achieve the objectives that you hope to achieve. So, I've got nonsense here really, but in type you might have, if you're a scholarly and academic publisher, you might have monograph, journal, article, extract, abstract, or whatever is meaningful to you, however you want to track types of works. I'm going to say that this is general interest. Similarly, project stage. This is very relevant to what we're talking about right now with acquisition, but it also extends on into the life of the work. So are we talking about this work being at the acquisition stage? Is it live? No. You can, again, set these stages to be whatever you want them to be, and then the stages can be amended as you go through the life of the work. So for now we'll say acquisition, that's fine. And then season. So I've got a season in here called Spring Summer 2024, but I'm interested in Spring Summer 2027 at the moment. And this is how we're adding our own setup into these fields. I have typed what I want the label to be, and then I click Create Spring Summer 2027. That's now available to be selected as an option, and it's selected automatically. And when I save, then this work is going to be set to be included in Spring Summer 2027. And optionally, I can say what the marketing tier is. If you're segmenting your works like that, then that's another potential option there. And I don't think I've ever not selected A star at this point. Very political. And I'm going to hit save, and that's going to set those records for me. And now, again, we're in the show view here, so I'm only seeing the information that's been put in. Clicking the information icons, as ever, is going to give me more information about what we're looking at here. Many times we're recommending that you raise a support ticket as well. If at any point you're thinking, gosh, whatever's in this drop down is not quite right for my purposes, or I wonder what process we should be adopting for best practice at this point, absolutely get in touch, drop us a line. It may be that our documentation and support is wanting, and we could improve what you're reading on the screen here. It could be that your particular use case is new and exciting and unique, and we can support you in that. But there's no limit on the number of people and the number of emails that can be sent according to our licensing terms. So please don't be a stranger and get in touch with any queries whatsoever. Oftentimes we will write new code to solve support tickets, and so if you want to see your data in a new format, you should ask. It may be exactly what we're going to do, and you may see a feature appear in Consonance that has been requested by you. So I've added in that. I feel that I ought to just add in the title as well, because having something down as untitled is about the least unique labelling I can think. So I'm going to click to edit this title region, and you can see here there's this kind of call to action. Any data that has not yet been filled in on the metadata page, you're going to see mention of the sort of data that it is, and clicking on that is going to take us to the edit area. This call to action text is quite helpful as well if you want to use the filter on this page. There's a filter on the metadata page and on quite a few other pages as well. If you type in title, then the whole page is going to get whittled down like we saw with the menu earlier, and we're going to be able to focus on only the data in front of us. So that can be really useful, and it works for all sorts of things. You know, if you're adding in subject information, then I've typed in subject, and now we've just got that information. If I want to add in a contributor, then I type contrib, and there I am. So that can be quite helpful as well. But for now, I'm going to click on the title region, and I'm going to call it Cats in Gardens 2. And I could add in a subtitle, I could add in an acronym, I could add in all of these different things, because there is no shortage of opportunity to describe your works within the ONIX standard to a very great level of detail. It's worth showing this though, because one of the levels of detail that you can enjoy is giving the products of a work their own discrete titles. You can tell why we call them works and products, can't you? Because if I have to start saying the title's title, it gets very complicated very quickly. So the work's title is usually the same as the products' titles, except for when it isn't. So at the moment they're all down as untitled. Saving this region is going to set the work title and the product titles to be the same. If I wanted it to be different for one of the particular products though, then I could say digital cats in digital gardens, and that would be okay. I can do that, I can override that. It's unlikely that you would want to do that. If the product is genuinely different, chances are you're looking at a new work as opposed to a product that has got a different title. But yeah, there's always a valid use case for this sort of thing. So if you need to do it and you know you need to do it, possibly because you've talked to us, raised a support ticket, and we've talked about it, then that's how you can override that. So yes, so now I have got my work. It's Cats in Gardens. It's part of the Feline Press publishing company. We've got some good information, and now we are ready to build up the use case for this work. We are really going to try to build a compelling argument in terms of financial planning, in terms of the commissioning strategy, and we're going to be working through that in the subsequent videos in this series. But for now, I do want to see how my season planning is coming along. I've got one potential work in it. Recall that I'm going to go to my main menu up here, and if I type season or C, then I'm going to have my options whittled down for me. Click on seasons, and what's going on in spring summer 2027. I've got one work. Click on that, and I'm starting to get this sense, this shape of the season. Admittedly, it's a tiny little publishing effort at the moment. I've got one work, but that one work has 3 products. This is how the classifications break down, very nice. It's got one contract, so Consonance has generated an empty contract for me so far, so we'll be interested in looking to see what that contains. We've got some workflow information, we've got some problems arising already. The publishing status is unknown for all 3 of the products, so we'll have to fix that up at some point. But sometimes data quality is very much dependent on the stage that we're at in the publishing process. So you'll notice that this is informational rather than like breaking anything. We're just letting you know that at the moment there's no publishing status, but since we've not signed the thing yet, I think it's entirely appropriate. But this is going to be here, and as you add information to the seasons, you're going to be building up this picture and not kind of losing your grip as the data proliferates, as things get more and more complicated and moving around. You've got a place where you're going to be able to come and see the woods for the trees. So I think we're going to leave it there for today. What we've done is add in some really, a great starting point for one particular work. We've added its products, and we've started to get a sense of how to move around consonants. We've looked at the main menu, we've looked at some of the filters on the pages, and we're going to see these patterns repeating themselves as we work through consonants, because we've tried to achieve a degree of consistency across all of the pages that we've looked at. But for now, we have made a great start. Next time, we are going to start to build up our argument and see if we can get our exciting new work about cats in gardens signed and motoring for 2027. So thanks very much. Perhaps subscribe to this playlist that I'm going to set up for these course videos, and then you'll be able to see the process unfolding in order. I always appreciate a like so that I know that someone's listening, but I appreciate much more you getting in touch via our support help desk and asking all of your interesting questions that will come up as a result of seeing this process. So thanks very much. Don't be a stranger.